from your first year in high school, you have these meetings with these Appleby guidance counselors who are preparing you for the next steps, and then it progresses every year from there, and it's a very comfortable transition. And I think that's something that often gets overlooked when applying for a high school, right? It sometimes you don't necessarily think about that far in advance, but I would say for me, that was the biggest help in shaping who I am today.
I'm Glenn Herbert, and I'm an editor with Our Kids. We're speaking with insiders from Canada's leading private schools to gain insights into their programs, culture, traditions, and leadership. This includes insights from parents, alumni, and administrators. This is the Our Kids Insider Perspective.
I would say the thing that I appreciated the most about Appleby was the wide array of experiences. And I think that the average teenager would just not apply themselves in all those ways if it were not for Appleby. Um, I think I think the bottom line is, like, I had the opportunity to try things that I never would have been able to if it were not for this school. Um, I had the chance to go on a service trip to Nepal and Costa Rica. Try new sports like squash. Get involved with community outreach, things like outdoor education. Where I could try, winter camping for the first time, and just a massive selection of extracurriculars to involve yourself. And I think that's something that graduating from Appleby, it's something that I really, really appreciated during that transition into university and leaving with all of those experiences. The biggest thing for me, like, that I've realized is um, after making that transition into university, I've had the pleasure of meeting like thousands of new people, like, during my first year. And a lot of the time, some of those first conversations that you have with these people are about, your high school experience. And so a lot of what I realized is um, academics, grades, and which courses you take are, all of that stuff is incredible at Appleby. But that's the stuff that is really comparable across like many schools. And I think it's really what stands out about Appleby is the experiences that you gain from the school that just go way beyond anything that you can learn in the classroom. Some of the examples I was speaking about earlier, it's when you receive your Ontario secondary school diploma, that day you graduate from Appleby, you also receive that Appleby College diploma. And I think that's really something that encompasses, all of the stuff that goes above and beyond, all of that learning that happens outside the classroom, the global education, which is something that is increasingly important in our world today, I think. That outdoor education, which is something that can naturally teach many different leadership skills in an environment that is a lot more flexible than a structured classroom environment. It's stuff like that, and all that massively diverse experience in all areas of school life. That is the stuff, for me at least, that I realized, in my personal experience, like, this is the stuff that is really different from other people's experiences. People that I've talked to in university that reflect on their high school experiences. If Appleby College were a person, they would be very open-minded. Um, they would be very inclusive, and then definitely very outgoing. Appleby has a very strong relationship between students and faculty. And I think that's something that you don't always get in high school. Um, you certainly don't get that very much in university. And I think that is something that Appleby really prides themselves on is, there are numerous different components that go into it. Um, but one of which is that gradual trust and freedom. Like each year at the school, you get more and more responsibility, and part of that comes from an increase in trust from the faculty, and I think that is something that greatly reflects like real life. You gradually get more freedom the older you get, along with all of the choices that come with it. Um, and then I would say another component is the strong connection between boarding students and day students. I think that is it's a very unique addition to the Appleby community. And there are so many, spirit days, events, activities that help to build that community. Um, and that's something that does an excellent job of connecting all different kinds of students at the school. I remember the first time that we were all gathered in the dining hall, and Mr. Van Nostrand, our principal, went up to the mic and gave us a speech. And I remember it was very obvious there's a place for everyone here. And at Appleby, whether you have a love for sports, that takes up much of your time, or maybe you're more of an introvert that would prefer taking, an arts co-curricular. Um, every such situation that you can possibly imagine, there is this welcoming environment um, at Appleby that happens so naturally, that it's, if you didn't actually think of it, you wouldn't even realize it. But I think for me, I guess that biggest value, I guess, would be inclusivity, and just that goes into creating this very welcoming environment and this community. Um, for me, I think that would be, one of the school's biggest values. I think the most shocking part about the whole process was when my parents found out that um, Appleby has mandatory boarding in grade 12. You can board at Appleby starting in grade 9. It's completely optional starting in high school, and a lot of the international students use that option. Um, and then in your grade 12 year, um, it's really interesting because then all of the local students kind of join in with the international students, and they all live at Appleby in grade 12. Um, and in that final year, there is such a strong, like, with your graduating class, there is such a strong feeling of community. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. High school to university is already a really big jump in terms of, academics. Um, you don't want to have that extra layer of worry of, what is residence going to be like? And it just completely takes that stress off your shoulders, or for me at least it did. Going into first year residence, I had this feeling like I've done this. I've done this before. I did this at Appleby. It's very similar. And that was definitely, it definitely made me feel more comfortable making that transition. You graduate Appleby with all of these experiences that make you feel ready for that next stage in your life. And University is a big jump. Like it's huge. It's hugely different than high school for a lot of people. And Appleby is such a big help in making that transition very smooth. Um, and that starts all the way from grade 9, really, from your first year in high school. You're taking you have these meetings with these Appleby guidance counselors who are preparing you for the next steps, and then it progresses every year from there, and it's a very comfortable transition. And I think that's something that often gets overlooked when applying for a high school, right? It sometimes you don't necessarily think about that far in advance, but I would say for me, um, that was the biggest help in shaping who I am today. There are so many opportunities. And I think the biggest thing for me was originally I went into it, um, you know, making that transition from a small school in Etobicoke to, this much bigger school in Oakville. I think I went into it a little bit rigid, a little bit nervous, a little bit maybe stubborn is the right word. And I think the one thing that I would have not necessarily done better, but maybe done different was go into it with an open mind. Go into it thinking, um, I'm gonna try all these things that I've never done before. At the start, my perspective was that Appleby is just, like any other school. Like I'm gonna go there, I'm gonna take the bus, I'm gonna go to school, I'm gonna do my thing. I'm gonna work hard, and then I'm gonna come home and go to hockey practice, or get involved in outside of school commitments and stuff. And I think the more that I got involved, and the more that what I was talking about earlier, the more flexible I was, the more that I approached things with an open mind and I actually tried new things, the more I thought that, Appleby is way more than any other high school experience. It's way more than that. And I think uh, when you realize that, that's when you can really take advantage of it. And that's when you can take advantage of all of the opportunities that are presented to you when you're a student at Appleby. And I think that perspective, that shift in perspective, um, that was a real game changer for me. Like that was how it evolved over time. Number one reason would have to be similar to what I was saying before is Appleby prepares you really well for life after high school. And then I would say the second reason would be it is very similar to what you experience in life. It's a co-ed school, first of all, which, when you get a job, when you go to university, it's co-ed. Like it's, you have to learn how to, um, thrive in that environment, I guess you could say, because that's what life is like. And um, there are so many other things like that as well. Like when you go to Appleby, you are meeting people from all over the world, which again is highly applicable to real life. When you get a job someday, like you're going to be working with people from all over the world, right? That's how it is. That's how it is in life, and when you get a job in university. Um, and then I would say the third reason why I would recommend this school is because it gives the opportunity to try new things. And I think that is sometimes undervalued. Um, I think Appleby makes you a well-rounded individual. Appleby really focuses on giving you a little bit of everything. And that would be the third reason why I would recommend it. Many schools you will get a great education now. There are many awesome schools out there. I think what you get from Appleby that's different is that you learn a ton outside of the classroom. And that is I can speak to that personally. It's the most valuable thing I've taken from Appleby. Like going on those service trips, going up north and trying winter camping for the first time with all of these people who have never done winter camping before, applying for leadership roles, joining clubs, trying out for different sports teams. Those are the kind of things that are really different at Appleby. And I would suggest, to prospective families that are considering Appleby, think about what is different about this school, and maybe reflect on how important those things are to you. My biggest piece of advice for new students is very similar to what I have been saying, and that's take advantage of it, and take advantage of it early, because it goes by super quick. And again, like Appleby is a very flexible environment. You have lots of freedom with the choices that you want to make, with what sports teams to try out for, which clubs to join, all of that stuff. Like it's up to you. And try not to go into that environment being rigid and stubborn. Try and go into it with an open mind. Really want to try new things, because they will open your eyes to what's out there, what opportunities are out there. And I would say, yeah, my biggest advice would be just take advantage of everything that Appleby has to offer.
For more information about this school, you can visit their profile at ourkids.net.